Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 292. We have an author who has a new book coming out who's making some bombshell claims about Joe Exotic of the Windsor family. He's talking about never-before-seen testimony, girls who said they got intimate with Prince Andrew, etc., etc. So this author, Ian Halperin, has this book that's getting ready to come out, and he talked to The Sun a little bit about what to expect within its pages. Now, we've heard a whole bunch about the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family up to this point, and I'm not just talking about within the Jeffrey Epstein atmosphere either. We know that he had a whole group of degenerate friends that he was associating with, gun runners, scumbag dictators, anybody that he thought could enrich him just a little bit more. So we have a whole bunch to go on already building the profile of Andrew that makes him look like an absolute scuzzbag. Now you start adding in the stuff with Jeffrey Epstein, this explosive stuff that we've heard, the allegations from Steve Scully, the allegations from the girls that were in the club that night, from Virginia herself, the pictures, and it starts to add up to a picture that you cannot ignore if you're somebody who's serious about the pursuit of justice, because the circumstantial evidence that we have here for Prince Andrew would have any one of us indicted. So it's about time that Andrew gets a little bit of a taste of that for himself. So let's jump into this article and see what The Sun has to say. Author of this article, James Beal. Headline, Royal Shock. Bombshell book set to reveal secrets from young women who claim they were intimate with Prince Andrew. Best-selling author Ian Halperin insists that sex, lies, and dirty money by the world's powerful elite will pile pressure on the Duke to meet with the FBI. Well, if the contents of his book can elicit that sort of reaction from Andrew, then I'm all for it. But remember, we have to remain a bit skeptical about claims made by these people in these books and stuff, right? We have to vet it. We have to take a look at it and not just, chase down our own confirmation bias. But when you have so much evidence that gets piled up from numerous sources, and a lot of it cross-checks itself, and then the rest of it gets corroborated, it's hard to ignore the stuff about Prince Andrew, right? It is very hard to ignore the evidence that is sitting there in front of your face. And again, that is just the circumstantial evidence, not anything that they got in a raid at Jeffrey Epstein's, not anything that they have compiled throughout their time of investigation. It just has to do with the circumstantial evidence that we have pulled out of these articles, right? So it doesn't look good for Prince Andrew when it comes to the evidence and the truth on your side, for sure. Because it seems like each week now, there's a new claim about Andrew and his behavior. And a book like this, where the author is claiming that he has people on record talking about being intimate with Andrew, and the information is so explosive that it's going to force Andrew to talk to the FBI. Well, those are pretty big claims, right? And I'm a bit skeptical until I see what they actually are, because, again, there are so many people that are willing to try and profit off of stuff like this that you have to be very careful with these sort of authors. The online description says it will offer never-before-revealed testimony from young women who claim they were intimate with the royal prince. It adds, his revelations about the disgraced prince will make world headlines. In an interview on U.S., Canadian filmmaker and best-selling author Halperin said, it's going to shed a lot of light. All right, well, that's interesting. I'm willing to give it a look, right? Take a look, give it a spin, give it a read, and see what the pages hold, because you never know. They might be full of fantastic information. It might be full of all sorts of testimony, like he's saying here, from people we have not heard from. But in a case like this, I find it a bit hard to believe that he's been able to find all of these people that are willing to go on record with him that have not been willing to go on record with anybody else. Now, is it impossible that that's the case? No, of course not. And again, I'm not saying that he is BSing here. Who knows? But I'd like to read this book for myself and take a look at what he has compiled and give it a run as far as vetting it myself, because again, I'm just very skeptical of just about all the information in this case, especially when it's not information that has been provided via somebody super close to things that are going on. I'm very cautious of people who are trying to profiteer here. I'll say one thing. After my book, if Prince Andrew is not finally interrogated by the feds, we've got a major problem, because I'm leashing a ton of never-before-revealed stuff. All right, well, good. Hey, I hope so. I hope that these claims are true. I hope that what this man is saying is correct, and that he has the goods that it's going to blow this case wide open, because that sure would make my job a lot easier as a commentator, right? If one of these investigative journalists go ahead and blow the story open, hell, that gives us days and days and days and weeks and weeks and weeks of stuff to talk about here. So believe me, I hope it's true, and I hope that everything that's in this book is earth-shattering information. But we've seen a lot of claims like this before in this case. We've seen a lot of people that have said that they have earth-shattering stuff. So until that information is provided, and most of the people who have come out and said that they have it have not been able to deliver so far. So until this stuff is provided, it's just, those are big claims, right? Very, very big claims. About the Epstein case, about Maxwell, especially about Prince Andrew, and about a plethora of other people connected to Epstein whose roles have never been revealed before. Again, very big claims. I'm very interested to see who these people are that have never been revealed, that supposedly were playing a role within Jeffrey Epstein's enterprise and within Jeffrey Epstein's web. Because I'll tell you, we've talked about a lot of people here on the podcast, and I would really, really love to see what sort of folks this man's talking about, because at this point, I don't know anybody who's played a key role in the case that we haven't touched on here at the very least. So I'm very interested to see what he has. Andrew, 60, is currently in a standoff with U.S. authorities over whether he will cooperate with an investigation into Epstein's alleged co-conspirators. That much is for certain. Definitely a standoff. We've discussed it at length. He wants to give a written testimony. They want him to come in and give an oral testimony, and that's where the impasse is right now. And for Andrew, he'll run around and say, well, look, I offered to help, but not the kind of help that they're looking for. They want him to sit down. He's offered to do the written testimony, so that gives him the ability to play loose with the truth a bit, right? Oh, well, I offered to help, but, they didn't want my help. And, of course, some people will buy that and say, yeah, look, he offered to help, man. What more do you want? When in reality, he really needs to sit down with these investigators, considering the role that he is alleged to play here. His friend Ghislaine Maxwell, 58, has been charged with child grooming connected to Epstein's sex trafficking ring in the probe. And again, remember the perjury as well. She's also been charged with perjury, and there are definitely more charges coming down the pipe. I just don't see how anyone can look at this case and compare it to other cases like it, sex trafficking cases, and not understand that there is more to the story here, that there is a bigger picture being played out behind the scenes, and eventually we're going to see more indictments. But as of now, this is all we have, and it is there's still heavy charges, right? But it is not the overall encompassing charges that are needed, considering how long she was actively involved in abusing people and helping Jeffrey Epstein. She is currently in jail awaiting trial and denied the charges against her. Halperin says that he even previously interviewed Epstein about his life in 2001 while writing an expose on the modeling industry. So that should be pretty interesting, right? A little bit of a look-see into what Ian Halperin, was working on in 2001, and when he interviewed Jeffrey Epstein. I'd like to see the contents of that interview. Always nice to go back and look at the things that Epstein was talking about in those interviews with the context of knowing what we know now. I like to look for little things, little hints, because we know that they were very brazen, right? And they like to throw it in everybody's face what they were doing. This wasn't something that was hidden in the shadows where nobody knew and, there was only 3 or 4 people who were involved. This was a very well-oiled machine that involved many moving parts. Employees, the core 4, lawyers, bankers, etc. Everybody played their little part. He says he conducted deep investigations into the pedophile who killed himself in jail last year, age 66, and his social circles. Halperin, a New York Times bestselling author, confirmed, "I actually interviewed Epstein for a book I wrote in 2001 when I infiltrated the model industry." So Ian Halperin has been around for quite some time. He's, wrote a bunch of books. I've never really read any of his work, but it's not like he's some unnamed author, right? He has been around, has made a name writing books like this. So again, while I'm skeptical about the claims he's making here about this earth-shattering information that he supposedly has that nobody else has seen, I think it's a good thing when we have people like him interested at the very least in the case, because the more people who understand at the very least the scope, a basic idea of the scope of what went on, then the more pressure that's going to be put on to our elected officials and the people who are in charge of making sure that these people are prosecuted. Halperin's 6-volume book is described on Amazon as the rollicking, scandalous, untold story behind the power, greed, and corruption by the world's most powerful elite. Sounds pretty promising to me. As you all know, I am no fan of the so-called elite. So-called polite society should be scattered to the 4 winds. These people, in my opinion at this point, are so untrustworthy that it's not even funny. I go into every conversation or every article that I read that has to do with these people automatically thinking that they're up to something scummy, because it's just been proven time and time again, either by the way they conduct themselves in business or being involved with scumbags like Epstein, that they have little to no regard for anybody who is not in their social circle. It adds that Halperin goes for royal blood in Volume 1, offering up details of Prince Andrew as well as Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's Megxit separation from the royal family. Again, really, who cares about that stuff? I know there's some people that do, and I might be missing the mark, right? That's just my opinion. I'm certainly not English. I don't know much about the monarchy, but I don't see why everyone's so fired up about this dude splitting and coming to America. Isn't he, far down the line, relatively speaking, to get the crown anyway? I mean, 5th or 6th or something like that at this point? My point is, why in the hell are people going so crazy about this dude leaving the United Kingdom? Focus all of that rage on this sick bastard, Prince Andrew. Halperin says the book will be released in the next few days. He has previously written books on Michael Jackson, Angelina Jolie, and Whitney Houston. Prince Andrew has denied previous allegations that he had any sexual contact with Epstein's survivor, Virginia Roberts. Representatives for the prince declined to comment on the allegations made in Halperin's book. So we know that they're not going to comment on any of these comments made in this book or the allegations made in this book. It seems to me at this point that it is clam up time for the prince, the queen, Buckingham Palace, and the prince's advisors as they try and weave their way through this mess that he has made for them. And it's not going to make their job any easier when week after week, month after month, day after day, more information and more dirt comes out on the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family, like this book from Ian Halperin. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. And if you'd like to join the conversation on Facebook, I will be adding a link to the description box where you can find the Facebook page for the show. Like always, all of the other links will be in the description box as well. All right, everybody. I hope that if you're out tonight, you're having a good time, getting your holiday weekend kicked off correctly, and please, everybody, be safe. I'll be back tomorrow, and we will rock it all out once again.